My name is Caroline Hayes. I'm 36 years old. 5 years ago, my parents told me they couldn't afford to save my 7-year-old daughter's life. They said they were broke, stretched thin, living on a fixed income. 2 months later, I discovered they had co-signed a $580,000 waterfront condo for my brother. The purchase agreement was signed 2 weeks before my daughter's heart stopped beating. They didn't know I kept every receipt, every email, every text message. 63 pages of proof. Last month, my brother collapsed at his office. Acute myeloid leukemia. The doctor said he needed a bone marrow donor, a perfect 10 out of 10 HLA match. My mother called me for the first time in 4 years. She was crying. She said, "Caroline, you're his only chance." What happened next changed everything they thought they knew about me. My brother Daniel came 4 years before me. We grew up in a comfortable suburb of New Jersey, the kind of neighborhood where houses have 2-car garages and kids get into good colleges. Dad was an accountant. Mom, Margaret, worked as a branch manager at a bank. Stable, successful, picture perfect from the outside. But if you looked at the numbers, you'd see the pattern I eventually saw. Daniel's college fund was $34,000. Mine was $8,200. He graduated from Princeton debt-free with a corner office job waiting. I graduated from Temple University with $61,000 in student loans. I told myself it didn't matter. Love wasn't about money. I was wrong. When my daughter Emma was born in April 2014, she had my eyes and her father Michael's smile. The kind of smile that made you smile back even when you were exhausted. My parents visited twice in her first year. My brother sent a $50 gift card. I told myself they were busy. We had each other. That was enough. I told myself that for 7 years. Then Emma got sick. May 12, 2021. She fainted at school during recess. The nurse said her heart rate was 130 beats per minute. We went to the emergency room that afternoon. Within a week, we were sitting across from Dr. Rachel Simmons at the Children's Hospital, watching her move a wand across Emma's chest while Emma asked, "Is that my heart?" Dr. Simmons asked Emma to go pick out a sticker. Then she sat down across from us and said words that tilted my entire world. "Emma has dilated cardiomyopathy. Her heart muscle is enlarged and isn't pumping efficiently. Her ejection fraction is 28%. Normal is 50 to 70. She needs a heart transplant. The deposit to get her listed was $64,000. Insurance would cover most of the surgery itself. But without that deposit, Emma couldn't get on the transplant list. Without the transplant, Dr. Simmons said gently, 6 months to a year, maybe less. With it, her 5-year survival rate was 83%. We had 8 weeks. Michael and I went through our finances that same night, savings of $12,000. His retirement account would net maybe $42,000 after penalties. Mine, $18,000. We were renters with maxed credit cards. We made a GoFundMe. 3 weeks later, strangers and friends had raised $31,240. We were still $114,000 short. On June 8th, I called my mother. I told her everything. The diagnosis, the transplant, the deposit, the gap we couldn't close. She said, "Oh, honey, have you tried a GoFundMe?" "We did," I told her. 4 days later, my father called back. He explained they were retired, on a fixed income, everything tied up in index funds. The market had taken losses. They couldn't liquidate. Every door I tried, he closed. "Dad, please. I'm begging you. I'm sorry, Valerie. We wish we could help." He hung up. We flew to Naples to try one last time, face to face. We sat in their living room. I noticed the new sectional, the 70-inch television, the wine fridge built into the kitchen island, but there was no money for Emma. We flew home the next day. The deadline was July 15th, 2021. We didn't make it. August was brutal. Emma lost 9 pounds in 3 weeks. She tried to play with her dolls and have to stop to catch her breath. One afternoon, she looked at me from the couch and said, "Mommy, I'm tired all the time. Is that normal?" I forced a smile. "Your heart is working really hard, baby." She asked when she'd get her new heart. I told her soon. We both knew I was lying. On September 8th, Emma was admitted to the ICU. Michael and I didn't leave. We held her hands. We told her stories. We sang her favorite songs. At 6:47 a.m. on September 9th, 2021, my daughter's heart stopped for the last time. I held her hand for 40 minutes before they made me let go. It was still warm. 2 months later, at 2 a.m., I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw my mother's post. Photos of Daniel and his wife on a balcony overlooking Puget Sound in Seattle. I recognized the view. Something in my chest pulled tight. I searched King County property records. Owner, Daniel Charles Hayes. Purchase date, October 15, 2021. Sale price, $580,000. Purchase agreement signed August 23, 2021. Down payment, $130,000. Co-signers, Robert and Margaret Hayes. 2 weeks before Emma died, they were signing mortgage papers. Michael found the email. My father had written to my mother and Daniel on August 10th. The transplant is a gamble, he wrote. Even with surgery, the 5-year survival rate is around 70 to 80%. We'd be liquidating retirement funds for a maybe. Daniel's condo is a sure thing. It's a tangible asset. Family wealth stays in the family. Let's move forward. Family wealth stays in the family. Emma wasn't family. She was a maybe, a bad investment. I called my mother in February 2022 and said I wanted to try to heal. I wanted a family dinner. She cried with joy. We flew back to Naples. I brought a binder, 63 pages of proof. I laid it on the dinner table over glazed salmon and wine and read every page out loud. The death certificate, the property records, the wire transfer, the email. When I reached family wealth stays in the family, my voice cracked, but I kept going. My father stood up and said we made a choice. Emma had a less than 70% chance at best. Ethan's investment had guaranteed returns. Then he said the words I will never unhear. We would have wasted $100,000 on a corpse. I stood up slowly. I told them they would never contact me again. I told them they were not my parents. They were investors who cut a bad asset. I left the binder on the table and walked out. 4 years of silence began. December 3rd, 2025. My phone rang. Unknown number. My mother's voice, breathless. Daniel collapsed at work. Leukemia. He needs a bone marrow donor. You're the only chance. Please, Caroline. He's your brother. I hung up. 2 days later, a patient advocate from Swedish Medical Center called. She was calm and professional. Siblings have a 25% chance of being a compatible match. Without a transplant, Daniel had 4 to 8 weeks. I agreed to the blood test. I told myself it was just information. I was a perfect 10 out of 10 HLA match. The probability of a sibling being a perfect match is only about 3%. My father had said Emma's 83% survival rate wasn't worth the investment. And here I was, a 3% miracle. For 4 days, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Emma would want me to do. I already knew the answer. I hated it. I called my therapist, Dr. Patricia Moore, for an emergency session. She asked what was holding me back. I told her if I saved him, they win. They get what they want again. She asked, and if you don't save him? I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, I become them. She asked what Emma would tell me if she were here. I closed my eyes. I saw her. 7 years old, bright green eyes, that smile. She'd tell me to save him. On December 19th, I called the patient advocate. I'll do it, I said. But I have conditions. I don't want to see my parents or Daniel before the procedure. When it was done, I was done. She agreed to everything. Daniel found my recovery room that evening anyway. He stood in the doorway, thin, pale, bald from chemo, looking 20 years older. He said he didn't deserve what I was doing. He knew I could have let him die and he would have understood. I looked at him and said, I didn't do it for you. I did it because I'm not them. And because Emma would have wanted me to. Go back to your room. You have a transplant tomorrow. He nodded and left. James asked if I was okay. For the first time in years, I said, I don't know. That felt honest. 3 weeks later, the patient advocate called. The engraftment was strong. The transplant had worked. Daniel was going to make it. 6 months after that, a letter arrived forwarded through the medical center. My parents had sold the Naples condo and donated every penny, $385,000, to the Children's Hospital Cardiac Fund in Emma's name. Attached was the donation receipt, the Emma Grace Hayes Cardiac Transplant Fund. I called my therapist. They donated the house money, I said. How does that make you feel? I don't know. That's okay. Should I respond? What do you want? I don't know that either. Then wait until you do. I waited a year. Then I called my mother and invited her and my father for breakfast. Just coffee and eggs. A start. They stood on my porch and looked old, smaller than I remembered. I opened the door. We sat at my kitchen table. Emma's photo was on the mantel. No one said anything about it. When they were leaving, my mother asked if they could do it again sometime. Maybe, I said. My father said, more than we deserve. They drove away. Michael put his arm around me. I watched them go. I still don't have an answer when people ask if I've forgiven them. Forgiveness isn't a switch. Some days I'm angrier than I can put into words. Some days I see Emma's face and want to scream at the unfairness of everything. But I also know this. My parents sold their retirement dream and gave it to children who need the chance Emma never got. Daniel calls once a month. I don't always answer, but sometimes I do. Last week I went to Emma's grave and brought pink roses. I sat there for an hour and told her about the breakfasts with her grandparents, about Daniel, about the fund in her name that has already helped 2 children get transplants. I told her I missed her. When I walked away, I smiled for the first time in 6 years. I didn't save my brother because I forgave him. I saved him because I'm not them. Because Emma taught me that love is not a transaction. It's not an investment with guaranteed returns. It's a choice. They chose wrong. I chose different. And maybe, slowly, that difference is becoming something real.